Hello there, people of YouTube. It's WiiLord95 here, and today I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about low tricks. Now, since I will be splitting this up into two halves, the first half, this week's, will cover the Nitro tracks, and the second half, next week's episode, will cover the retro tracks. So I'm just going to go through every single ramp and kind of explain to you what's going on. So, if you're wondering, the image at the bottom left explains kind of how worth it is to use this strategy in a race. Now, if you see the 100% sign, then it is always useful and you should go for it every single time. If you see the pancake art, it is situational, meaning it's probably only useful for no item runs, or just an alternate strategy, or for worldwides, or it's situational basically. If you see the speed limit sign, then it is only worth going for after a certain point, like after you get to a certain level. Like, for example, the Coconut Mall advanced tricks that you can do on the planters, it's not worth going for them until you reach, say, I don't know, 158 or so. I'm just throwing out a number. But if you're at like 2 minutes and 5 seconds, then it's not worth going for these low tricks that don't save enough to make a difference at your level. And also for bonus strategies and just alternate strategies that are just never worth using. I've got the picture of Arvo eating a hamburger. So with that, let's get into the first ramp. Luigi circuit, pretty basic. The easiest way to access this ramp is with the mushroom, and it is not faster. This is also possible shroomless if you use the curb, like so. Basically what I'm doing is I'm charging a mini turbo, and I'm using the air from the curb to carry me to the ramp. Now on Moo Moo Meadows, this blue ramp over here is useful for shroomless times, but if you're using a mushroom like regular time trials, I would advise that you avoid this ramp at all costs. Now basically what I'm doing is I'm hopping onto the ramp and I'm drifting to the right, and you get less air if you hop onto the ramp. Now for this final ramp, if you hit it at a specific spot, you could get a pretty low jump. It's kind of specific, but you basically want to hit the very right side of the boost panel, and I would not recommend going for this strategy until you have reached roughly a 17 point. If you can reach a 17.4-ish in time trials, then I would go for that. If not, then there is this backup strategy that I like to use, where you approach the ramp from more of a perpendicular angle, and then you approach it exactly like the blue ramp, where you hop on, you do a drift to the right. Now keep in mind, after this, it is kind of bouncy, and the terrain is really inconsistent. Now for Mushroom Gorge, these ramps are pretty simple. You just kind of want to drive off them and hold to the side after you do a trick, because if you try to low trick it, that will happen. And same thing here, you just kind of want to stay to the left, so that way you can skip the last mushroom. Again, you don't want to try to low trick it by hopping and tricking, because that will happen. And also, I'm going kind of slow because this is inconsistent, but if you hit the edge of the ramp, you get like a lot more air. So just, if you recognize that, then come towards the middle. And that ramp is also pretty simple. You just kind of go off it. That one too, you drive off it and then you hold to a side. Now it is best to do a down trick because it is the most consistent method to use here. Just remember, do not hop, because more than not you will hop over the ramp, and also getting a low trick by hopping on that is slower. For this boost ramp, you kind of have a lot of wiggle room with how you can take it. It is fastest to go for the shroomless shortcut, like so. I won't go into extreme depth on how to do it. I will save that for a different video. If you are not taking the shroomless shortcut, then simply wheelie over the bumps, as such. And for the final ramp, I'm not too good at it, but you want to hop twice at that specific timing and get a low jump. Also, there's this backup strategy that you can do lap 3, where you wheelie off the side. Now for Mario Circuit, this ramp is pretty temperamental. You can access it just like Luigi Circuit by using a mushroom, but most of the time, if you try without a mushroom, that will happen. You'll just get stuck in the grass. It is faster if you do it well enough to get a trick off the ramp, and if you hit it at a specific spot closer to the right, you can get what is called a fast ramp and retain your speed throughout the air. Also, there is this strategy nicknamed the King Alex strategy, where you hit the edge of the ramp. Now, the King Alex strategy saves the most time, but it's very unrealistic that you'll go for this even at a world record level. Now, for the Coconut Mall beginning escalator, there are a couple different strategies that you can use. This one happens to be the fastest. Now, to do it, you have to cancel your wheelie, hop, trick, so that way you get a low trick, and then you have to get your wheelie out on the escalator, because otherwise the run is over. Now, there is a more consistent backup strategy where you land on top of the handrail or banister, or whatever we call them, I don't remember. But this strategy is much more consistent than the former and can be used throughout the track, as it is possible on all of the banisters. I think we call them banisters. Now, in practice, this is done pretty much the exact same way. You have to cancel your wheelie, hop at the same time as you trick, at least that's how I do it, and then you have to wheelie to the right. Now, this takes a little bit of practice, but once you get it down, it's pretty great. Also, this is a cool strategy that is technically the fastest, but it's too inconsistent at a world record level to be used effectively. On second thought, I actually don't know how this compares to using the far right banister like Ace does in his world record, so I would just advise that you don't go for it, because it's not worth it even at a world record level. The shortcut ramp is pretty simple. I didn't execute it well, but it's pretty self-explanatory. For this ramp right over here, you have to hop and trick at the same time, and is the fastest backup strategy if you are not taking the shortcut that requires a mushroom. Now, for the planter tricks, this is one route to get through it. This is the route that the world record takes by doing a side trick and drifting to the side at the same time. Now, this is only worth it at a world record level or at a very advanced level, and is very difficult to do unless you use the classic or GameCube controllers. Otherwise, I would recommend that you just take the boost panel on the right side. For this ending, there is a couple different strategies. That is the one that I like to do, where you hop onto the side of the planter trick, the trickable area, and then you do another hop trick, and you drift this time on the boost ramp. Now, I did an up trick here. Usually I do a down trick. Also, you can hop over the ramp, which is pretty cool. And this is the world record strategy. For DK Summit, or Snowboard Cross, depending on who you ask, you want to cut this corner by doing a wheelie after you complete a drift. Now, it is important that you do not bounce upon landing, even though you nosedive. So normally what I do is I nosedive and then I let go of all stuff, or all inputs, right before I land, and then you can start a drift without bouncing. Now, once you land, you have to hop and drift again, so that way you retain your line, and then you can continue. The sides of the mounds are probably the best spot to trick, as they are the parts that give you the least amount of air. And if you're not taking the mushroom, then you want to go to the right as so. Assuming you take the double shortcut, then you want to hug this right zipper for as long as you can, and then do a trick around the corner. If not, then you want to again get on the zipper as soon as possible and ride it out until the end, being careful of the Shy Guys. For this next strategy on Wario's Goldmine, it's pretty simple in theory, but in practice it is a little bit more difficult. Now essentially what you do is you start a drift and you want to reach this ramp as soon as possible. Now you want to trick at a specific timing because the amount of air you get is determined entirely on how late you trick. Trick too late and you'll fall off. Trick too early, you'll get too much air. For this ramp here, you want to do something kind of like that. There actually is a faster method at a world record level, but I don't actually know how to do it. The one that I do know how to do in practice is you hop just to the left of the little metal bar, and then you hold right, nosedive, and you use the invisible wall to get less air as such. Now here's what happens if you approach the ramp from too far to the left. Most of the time you just fall off. For the final ramp, normally you just take it, normally. But if you want to be fancy, then there's this cool low jump that you can do where you hop and you clip the edge of the ramp like this. For Daisy Circuit, there's only one ramp, but the way you take it is pretty specific. After you did this little strategy, you want to mushroom just before the cone and release your drift at the entrance. Now I like to wheelie just because you can wheelie turn more and it won't affect your angle as much, so you can be more specific with it. Now this is very bouncy. It's one of the bounciest sections in the entire game. And to take it normally, you just kind of wheelie and then you trick. And then, like with the Toad's Factory ramp, you hold to the side a little bit and you nosedive. Be careful not to bounce here, because that will lose a lot of time. Now, I'm pretty sure it's like a 1 or 2 frame timing, but if you get this hop timing down, then you can do what's called the dive. Now, this looks super cool, but basically you hop and you get like a super low jump, and it's really hard. Also, sometimes this happens. On Koopa Cape, for the beginning ramp, you want to hop onto the boost panel. Now this isn't the best execution here, but that's kind of how it works. That ramp is pretty self-explanatory, works kind of like the Toad's Factory ramp. This one, you don't want to trick, but you want to hop and just clip the edge like Wario's Goldmine. Or if you're not taking the shroomless shortcut after, you do a trick. And you want to land on the right side, where the asphalt is. At the end, you want to do what is called the rock shortcut, or the rock strategy rather. And basically this is done by keeping a pretty straight line going in, maybe a little bit angled to the right, and then you want to start holding right towards the end, hit this rock, and immediately let go of the control stick. And then when you land, you want to hold left to correct your angle, and then you can use your mushroom here. This little grate will give you a little bit of air, which can cause you to bounce a lot, so I would recommend that you try and avoid that at all costs. Now there is a faster strategy called the Mander, and that's actually the first time I've ever done it before. And how it works is you hit the edge of the pipe at the same time that you hit the edge of the boost panel, so it kind of creates this effect where you don't get a lot of air, and it saves a lot of time, but it's very difficult. This ramp on Maple Treeway is pretty self-explanatory. Hop onto the ramp, trick. For the net, you want to hop and trick at the same time, and ideally you can get 3 tricks. And to finish, you want to do a drift trick and nosedive. For this ramp, you want to drift and trick at the same time, same with this one. And for the third ramp, you want to just go off it normally, pretty much. For this ramp here at the end, it's pretty situational and difficult to get. Normally that happens and you just kind of go over it. And the final ramp works the same as the first 2. Actually, these ramps do as well. You want to hop and trick at the same time. And for the wall glitch, I won't go too in depth onto how to do the wall glitch. I'll save that for a different video, actually. For this ramp here, you want to land on the side little area, the railing, so that way you can skip the last ramp. And then for this, you want to hop and you want to land, start drifting, and then trick. For the Moonview Highway ramp, that's kind of how you want to do it. You want to drift to the left, kind of like Coconut Mall, and then you can also get a double trick, kind of like this. For Bowser's Castle, there's a couple different ways to take the first ramp. The safest is just to, go off it normally, but also you can, oh, yeah, okay, that's how you do the next part. But also you can hop and do a drift if you land on it properly, but be careful because you can jump over it. For this part, basically what you want to do is you want to approach it from the right side of the carpet, and you want to hop and trick at the same time, and ideally you would get 2 or even 3 tricks if the wave cycle is in your favor. For this ramp here, you can hit the edge, but most people just go off it like that and not trick. Over here, you want to go off that one normally and then trick off this one. And there is a strategy where you can use the wall here to get less airtime, or if you get lucky with the bounces, you can hit the edge of the ramp. For this one, you want to hop and then land on the edge of the ramp and drift trick. For the mounds at the end, you can trick on them as long as they have the orange still, pretty much, and you want to try to aim for the edges because that's where you get the least amount of air. The first ramp on Rainbow Road is pretty easy because you can kind of take it however you want. It doesn't make too much of a difference. If you're doing this wheelie shortcut at the beginning, then you can use the ramp as an opportunity to correct your angle. For this wavy section, you want to hop and you want to trick at the same time, just like Bowser's Castle, and you want to do that all the way to the end and ideally hit the boost ramp. For these rings, you kind of just want to hit the edge and not get too much air. Although for the second one, if you get a little bit more air and you land after, it makes the shroomless shortcut a lot easier. For this turn, basically what you want to do is you just want to drift and not get too much air, common theme. And for the final ramp, you want to do a drift trick. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you are new. Support is always appreciated. If there's something that I didn't go super in depth about that you have more questions on, be sure to let me know in a comment down below, and I will get to it as soon as possible. Stay tuned next week for part 2, the retro tracks. So that is all the bottom half of the Mario Kart Wii track selection screen. And yeah, thank you all for watching, and have a good day.